Hello, all. It's me again, Amlee, your everyday light worker. And I'm going to do a short video on programming because I'm doing an online course, a couple of online courses really, on discrimination in the workplace, toxic work environments, and professionalism. And these three courses go kind of hand in hand because when you're in a workplace, you need to behave professionally, and we talk about what that is. Because if you don't, you're definitely going to run into trouble. In most workplaces, some places, not so much. You can be as unprofessional as you want to. It depends on the workplace. But um, in toxic work environments, maintaining your professionalism is key to surviving those environments. And it's also key if you plan on going through any kind of discrimination reporting process. So I'm going to do a video on what that's like in the federal employment sector. So if you have any questions on how to file either an informal or formal complaint, the informal comes first and the formal comes second, complaint in the federal workplace sector, just hold on. I got a video for that for you. But let's talk about programming. What do I mean by programming? So I can give you all of these, nuts and bolts tips on the workplace and how to navigate it because I've been there and I've worked there, and that's like second nature to me. I've always been involved in somehow mediating workplace conflict my whole entire career. So I know that stuff pretty well. But I also want to talk about programming that we see in the workplaces. And by programming, what I mean is people being taught, being trained, being indoctrinated basically into this idea that there are certain things that they have to accept that they shouldn't be accepting in the workplace. So, workplaces can be some pretty rough places to exist. And the programming for the workplace, and where does this programming come from? Quite honestly, I don't know. It's like um, energetic, it's just in the general environment. And not every place has the same type of programming, but generally the programming is this. If you're a worker, if you sign on to take a job anywhere, you have a boss, right? And that boss is the boss of you. And depending on their personality, depending on their objectives, depending on the company's objectives, that boss just has a lot of control over you and your life. And you have to be responsive to that, even if they're making you miserable, even if they're making you sick, because the work environment is toxic. You're programmed to just relent to that much control, for the boss to have that much control over your life. And that's a sort of programming. And that programming is breaking down because we have a whole generation of people, the millennials, who just aren't going for it. They're like, you know what? You will try to force me into doing exactly what you want me to do, but I'm not going to go for it. And that is causing a lot of push pull in today's work environments. And there's also just a lot of other stuff going on in the work environment because our world is changing so quickly. It's moving into a global environment. Work can be global, work can be from home. We've got a lot of things happening with work, a lot of changes that are changing the way that people respond to it and the way that people interact with it. But basically, this is old school programming. So the old school programming is that, if you are an employee at a job, you are just at the mercy of your boss, and you just have to deal with it. So that is quite brutal programming. So what I mean by programming is that it's just a set of ideas that are pervasive in the culture. So that set of ideas is pervasive in places of employment pretty much everywhere. It's been around for centuries. So this is the programming that that so many people are now resisting and fighting against, pushing against. One thing that you can do that will really help you is to recognize it as programming and to make a conscious decision that you're not going to participate in the programming. And it's not something that you have to say to anyone. It's just that when you feel someone is trying to intimidate you or manipulate you with fear, because that's what the programming is. The programming is just fear and indoctrination into fear. Don't be afraid. Understand that it's programming, recognize it for what it is, it's programming, and just kind of let that programming pass through you, because everything is energetic. And so for the programming to have to take, it needs some kind of energy to attach to. It needs to attach to that fear trigger. If it doesn't attach to that fear trigger, it's not going to be able to take hold and be effective. So I understand that this is easier said than done. When someone is trying to make you afraid and make you fearful, to not be afraid. That's not an easy thing to do. But once you start to recognize things as programming, once you step back from it and be like, okay, this is programming, I have a choice. I don't have to participate in this programming. Watch your emotional responses. And when you begin to watch your emotional responses to programming, you can begin to maneuver it and navigate it a little bit better and not just be a victim of it. So that's all I have to say about programming. It's everywhere. It's very pervasive. You need to watch it so that you don't fall victim to it. Okay? All right. Bye-bye.